Kale walked through the dusty streets of Zorth Prime, his boots kicking up small clouds of red sand. The city was alive with noise, merchants shouting their prices, traders haggling over rare minerals, and the constant hum of hovering vehicles above. But Kale paid little attention. His mind was focused on one thing, the Dragon Child. The message had come 2 days ago, sealed with a mark he knew well, a clawed symbol of the Dragon Guild. The note was simple: a hatchling is in danger. Only you can save it. 5 blades are required. Kale had read it 3 times. 5 legendary energy blades. Almost impossible to steal. But the moment he thought of the helpless little dragon, he knew he could not refuse. He ducked into a narrow alley, blending into the shadows. His contacts had told him the blades were in the vault of a wealthy collector, a man who loved rare weapons almost as much as he loved himself. Guards patrolled the area, but Kale moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had done impossible things before. Years in the outer colonies had taught him how to read people, how to anticipate their movements. The vault building loomed ahead, a tall structure of white metal with glowing blue lines. Security drones circled above, scanning every corner. Kale crouched behind a crate and checked his gear. His gloves were reinforced, his cloak light but durable. Most importantly, he had his tools, small gadgets that could bypass locks, disable cameras, and even mislead drones for a few precious minutes. He slipped inside through a side door he had unlocked the night before. The interior smelled cold and metallic. The collector's guards were alert but human, and Kale had studied their patterns. He moved silently, every step measured, until he reached the main vault door. It was massive, with layers of protection: keypads, retinal scanners, pressure sensors. Kale's fingers danced over the controls of his portable hacking device. Lights blinked and a low hum filled the air. Sweat ran down his temple, but he kept calm. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, with a soft click, the vault door slid open. Inside, the 5 blades rested on a pedestal, each one glowing with a faint, otherworldly light. They were beautiful, deadly, and completely out of reach for most humans. But not for him. He grabbed them carefully, feeling the weight of their power in his hands. Each blade seemed alive, humming as if it recognized him. He didn't have time to admire them. The alarms started blaring. Kale's heart pounded, but he moved quickly, retracing his steps with the precision of someone who had trained for moments like this. Drones buzzed closer and a guard shouted, but Kale was faster. He ducked behind a pillar, rolled across the floor, and slipped out through the same side door. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city. Kale sprinted through narrow streets, the blade secured in a reinforced pack on his back. His lungs burned, but he could not stop. The Dragon Child was waiting, and every second counted. By the time he reached the edge of the city, the first stars were visible in the sky. Kale slowed for a moment, breathing heavily, feeling the thrill of success and the danger he had just escaped. But his relief was short-lived. The moment he stepped onto the open plains beyond Zorth Prime, something hit him. He had been ambushed. Figures emerged from the shadows, masked, armed, and moving fast. Kale's instincts kicked in. He drew one blade, its light cutting through the dark. The fight was fierce but brief. Kale was strong, but the attackers were many. He managed to fend them off long enough to escape, but not without cost. A sharp pain tore through his side as a laser grazed him. He staggered, barely keeping his balance, but he kept running. Eventually, he found himself at the edge of a cliff overlooking a strange, glowing forest. His vision blurred. He fell to his knees, clutching the 5 blades. The last thing he remembered was the faint sound of wings above him, like a whisper in the wind. Then darkness swallowed him. When Kale opened his eyes again, he was not in Zorth Prime anymore. The air was different, thicker, warm, and filled with the scent of flowers he had never smelled. Sunlight filtered through towering crystal trees, casting rainbow reflections across the ground. And in front of him, massive shapes stirred, dragons, but unlike any he had seen before. Their scales shimmered like polished gemstones, and their eyes glowed with intelligence and power. Kale tried to rise, but his body ached, and he realized he was surrounded. The dragons watched him closely, their gazes sharp but not hostile. He understood then that he had crossed into a world far beyond anything he had imagined, a world where the rules were different, and where his simple act of courage had placed him at the center of something far greater than himself. And somewhere deep in this strange kingdom, the Dragon Child waited. Kale's eyes opened slowly. The light was soft, warm, and unlike anything he had ever seen. He blinked against the glow and tried to sit up, but his muscles protested, stiff and sore from the long fall. He looked around and realized he was no longer on the dusty plains of Zorth Prime. He was inside a massive hall, taller than any building he had ever seen. Crystal spires rose from the floor and ceiling, catching the light and sending it sparkling in every direction. Energy flowed through the walls like living rivers of color, and the air hummed with a soft, steady pulse that seemed to resonate with his very heartbeat. It was beautiful, but it made him feel small. Very, very small. Then he noticed them. Massive shapes, moving silently in the shadows at the far end of the hall. Dragons. Not just any dragons, these were huge, regal, and terrifying in their presence. Their scales shimmered in colors he couldn't name, and their eyes glowed like molten gold. They didn't roar or growl. They simply watched him, their gaze sharp and unyielding. Kale swallowed hard. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was something different. Every instinct in his body told him to run, but he was trapped. And he could feel it, a weight of expectation, as if these creatures could see everything he had done, everything he had thought. A deep voice echoed, not from the mouth of any dragon but inside his mind. "Why are you here, human?" Kale froze. He looked around, but no dragon's mouth moved. The voice was calm but commanding, carrying the weight of centuries. I came to save a dragon child," he said, unsure if the dragons could hear him aloud or only in thought. Someone asked me to protect it." The largest dragon stepped forward. Its wings stretched wide, and the light from the spires danced across its scales. Its eyes bored into Kale, and he felt no malice, only assessment. "You risked your life for one of ours?" the dragon asked. "You stole from humans, faced death, all for a child of our kind?" Kale nodded. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. "Yes. I couldn't let it die." The dragon studied him for a long moment, tilting its head as if trying to measure his soul. Then, slowly it moved closer. Its massive claw touched the floor near Kale, and the ground trembled slightly. Few humans show such courage. Fewer still show selflessness. You have crossed into a world that most of your kind cannot even imagine. Yet here you stand. Kale swallowed. His heart pounded in his chest, equal parts fear and awe. He looked at the other dragons. They were all watching him, their golden eyes filled with intelligence that made him feel both insignificant and strangely welcomed. "We have observed your kind," another dragon said, its voice softer but no less powerful. "You are clever, resilient, and unpredictable. These qualities have earned our attention." Kale tried to rise to his feet, but his legs trembled. The largest dragon lowered its head so that its glowing eyes were level with him. "Tell us of this child. Why do you risk so much?" Kale's mind flashed back to the hatchling. The small creature had been trembling, its scales dull and weak. He remembered the way it had looked at him, as if it knew he would help. "Because it had no one else," he said. "Because I couldn't turn away. It didn't matter what it was or who it belonged to. I couldn't let it die." The dragons were silent for a long moment. Kale could hear his own breathing, the hum of the energy in the hall, and the faint sound of wings brushing the air. Then, slowly, the largest dragon spoke again. "Very few humans have ever spoken with such honesty. Very few would risk everything for another being they barely know. You are remarkable." Kale felt a flicker of hope. He had done what he thought was right, and now these incredible creatures, guardians of a kingdom he had never imagined, recognized it. "I don't know what comes next," he said quietly. I want to protect it." The dragons seemed to share a silent understanding. One of the smaller dragons approached and lowered its massive head near Kale. He could feel the warmth radiating from its body, and a strange sense of calm filled him. "You will face trials," the voice said, echoing in his mind once more. "Trials not of strength but of character. If you succeed, you will not only protect the child, but you may join our ranks as a guardian, one of the few humans ever honored in our world." Kale's eyes widened. A guardian? A human among dragons? The thought was unbelievable, yet the dragon's presence made it feel possible. The largest dragon stepped back, wings folding gracefully. "Rest now, human. Gather your strength. Tomorrow the trials begin." Kale nodded weakly, still in awe. He sank to the floor, the hum of the energy currents around him lulling him into a rare sleep, filled with strange visions of flying over crystal forests, of dragons watching, guiding, and testing him. Somewhere, deep in the sanctuary, the dragon child stirred. Kale knew that his journey had only just begun, and that whatever came next would demand everything he had, and perhaps even more. Kale woke to the soft glow of the crystal spires once again. The air smelled sweet, like flowers he had never seen before, and a faint hum of energy filled the hall. He rubbed his eyes and tried to stand, feeling the soreness from the fall and the climb yesterday. But something inside him made him move forward. Today was the day of the trials. The largest dragon, the one who had spoken to him before, appeared in front of him. Its golden eyes glimmered with both curiosity and authority. "Human," it said, "you have come willingly. This is the trial of guardians. Each test will measure your courage, your mind, and your heart. Fail and you leave this place. Succeed and you may become one of us." Kale swallowed hard. He had faced danger before, but this was different. The dragons did not judge by strength alone. They saw everything. He could feel it in the way they watched him, their eyes piercing yet not cruel. The first trial began immediately. A path of floating crystal platforms stretched across a deep chasm. The platforms shimmered, moving slightly with invisible energy currents. Kale had to cross without falling. He took a deep breath, stepped onto the first platform and felt it wobble. He adjusted his balance, focusing on each step. He felt the dragon's gaze upon him and somehow, it gave him confidence. Step by step he moved across the chasm. When he reached the other side, the largest dragon nodded. "You have balance and courage. But this is only the beginning." The second trial was one of intelligence. A series of glowing energy gates appeared, each marked with strange symbols that shifted constantly. Kale had to figure out the correct path quickly, or the gates would close and trap him. He studied the symbols, noticing patterns. His human mind, used to puzzles and strategy, began to see the logic behind the chaos. He moved through the gates with careful precision, barely avoiding the closing barriers. As he stepped through the last gate, a low hum of approval resonated through the hall. Cleverness, yes. But cleverness without wisdom can be dangerous. The third trial tested empathy. A small, dragon-like creature appeared, trembling and weak. Kale could sense its fear. Around it, shadows of predators flickered, illusions meant to frighten him. The trial was clear: protect the creature or continue without it. Kale knelt down, calming the little dragon with gentle words, using his cloak to shield it from the illusions. The shadows tried to frighten him, but he held his ground. The dragons watched silently. When the illusions disappeared, the creature nuzzled him gratefully. "You value life above all," the largest dragon said. "This is rare among your kind." The fourth trial was physical but with a twist. Kale had to climb a wall of energy streams that pulsed unpredictably, each step requiring timing and focus. He used his strength and human ingenuity, studying the rhythm of the energy before leaping and grabbing the next stream. His fingers burned, his muscles ached, but he refused to stop. At the top, he paused, looking down at the enormous distance he had climbed. The dragons nodded again. Persistence and adaptability. "You learn quickly, human." Finally came the last trial, the hardest of all. Kale was shown visions, images of the dragon child in danger, of people he loved being threatened, and a choice: save himself or risk everything for another. His chest tightened. He thought of the little dragon hatchling, trembling and alone. Without hesitation he chose to protect the child. The visions shifted, showing the consequences, the pain and the sacrifices. But he did not waver. The hall grew silent. The dragons circled him, their wings casting long shadows across the crystal floor. "You have shown courage, intelligence, compassion and selflessness," the largest dragon said. Its voice echoed inside Kale's mind. "You have passed the trials of body, mind and heart. Few humans ever reach this point. You are worthy." Kale sank to his knees, exhausted but elated. He had faced challenges he never imagined, yet every step had taught him something. He realized that his human qualities, his creativity, his compassion and his courage, were not weaknesses here but strengths. The dragons respected him, not for what he could fight, but for who he was. A smaller dragon approached and lowered its massive head to Kale's level. It nuzzled him gently, a gesture of trust and acceptance. Kale felt a warmth in his chest, a bond forming between human and dragon, a connection stronger than anything he had ever known. The largest dragon stepped back, wings folding gracefully. "Rise, Kale. You are no longer merely a human who came to save a child. You are now one of us, a guardian of the Dragon Kingdom. The path ahead will be difficult, but you have proven that you are worthy of standing beside us." Kale stood, still shaky but filled with a sense of purpose. He looked at the dragons around him, massive and majestic, and felt a new respect for their kind. He thought of the dragon child waiting somewhere in this vast kingdom. He smiled, realizing that his journey had only just begun. For the first time, Kale understood something important. It was not strength alone that mattered, not speed or skill alone. It was the choices he made, the courage to face danger, and the willingness to protect those who could not protect themselves. That was what made a true guardian. And as he stood among the dragons, the warmth of the crystal light surrounding him, Kale felt ready for whatever came next. He had passed the trials, and now he belonged to a world that had seemed impossible, a world that was waiting for him to rise and meet its greatest challenges. Kale followed the dragons through the crystal hall, his steps careful but steady. Even though he had passed the trials, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The dragons moved gracefully, their massive wings folding and unfolding as they walked. Kale kept his gaze on the largest dragon, whose golden eyes seemed to watch his every move. After a long walk, they arrived at the heart of the Dragon Kingdom. The place took Kale's breath away. Towering crystal trees stretched high into the sky, their branches glowing with colors that shifted like liquid light. Rivers of energy flowed between the trees, sparkling like stars in motion. Birds, strange, glowing creatures, flew through the air, leaving trails of light behind them. Kale had never seen anything so beautiful in his life. "Here," the largest dragon said, its voice echoing inside Kale's mind, "is the heart of our kingdom. Few outsiders ever reach this place. Fewer still are allowed to walk freely among us. You, Kale, have earned this honor." Kale swallowed hard. He had never expected anything like this. Every instinct in his body told him to be careful, but he could not hide his awe. The dragons did not move like animals, they moved like rulers of the world, powerful and aware of every detail around them. A smaller dragon approached Kale, its scales shining like silver. In its claws it carried a small bundle. As it lowered the bundle to the ground, Kale realized it was the dragon child he had come to save. His heart jumped. The hatchling's eyes opened slowly, glowing softly, and it made a small, pitiful sound. Kale stepped forward, reaching out carefully. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. "I am here." The hatchling nuzzled him, and Kale felt a strange warmth fill his chest. Despite the child's size, it carried an energy that was almost overwhelming, a sense of importance that made Kale's responsibility feel heavier. He had not just saved a small dragon. He had saved the future of an entire kingdom. The largest dragon lowered its head close to Kale. "This child is not ordinary," it said. "It is a chosen heir, destined to unite the clans. Your actions have ensured its survival. You have done more than simply protect. It is now possible for you to shape the future of our kingdom." Kale's eyes widened. A chosen heir? Unite the clans? He had only thought about saving a small, defenseless creature. He had never imagined that his simple choice would carry such weight. The dragons circled around him, wings casting patterns of light on the ground. "We have watched humans for a long time," the largest dragon said. "Many are selfish, seeking power for themselves. But you act differently. You think, you care, and you are brave beyond measure. These qualities are rare and precious." Kale felt both pride and humility. He had always thought of humans as clever and strong, but here, in a world of beings far older and larger than himself, he realized how small he truly was. Yet the dragons did not treat him as weak. They treated him as an equal in spirit, capable of shaping events and making choices that even they could not. The hatchling began to stir again, and Kale knelt to its level. He wrapped his arms gently around it, feeling its warmth and vulnerability. "We are stronger together," he whispered, thinking of the dragons surrounding him. "I will protect you no matter what." The dragons seemed to acknowledge his words, a ripple of energy passing through the crystal trees, as if the kingdom itself recognized Kale's promise. The largest dragon spoke again, softer this time. "In time you will learn to fight beside us, to understand our ways and to lead when needed. You are no longer only human, you are a guardian." Kale looked at the hatchling, then at the dragons, and finally at the flowing rivers of light. A strange sense of peace settled over him. For the first time in his life he felt that he belonged somewhere, not to a city or a world but to something greater, something alive and aware. He had risked his life for a single child, and now he was part of a kingdom he had never dreamed of. Hours passed, though Kale lost track of time. He watched the hatchling play carefully among the dragon's feet, learning, exploring, and testing its strength. Kale felt a bond forming, not just with the child but with the dragons as a whole. He realized that courage, empathy, and intelligence were not just traits of humans, they were traits that could bridge worlds. "Rest now, Kale," the largest dragon said finally. "Tomorrow your training begins. You must learn to move as we do, to understand the energy of this kingdom, and to prepare for the challenges that lie ahead. The path of a guardian is not easy, but you are ready." Kale nodded. He placed the hatchling safely on the ground, watching it carefully. I won't fail, he whispered. I'll protect this child and I'll be worthy of your trust. The dragon's eyes glowed softly as if acknowledging his promise. Kale leaned back, taking a deep breath of the warm, glowing air. He looked out at the vast kingdom filled with wonder and light, and realized that his journey had only begun. He was no longer just a human who had stolen blades for a child, he was now part of a living, breathing kingdom, a world that trusted him with its future. And somewhere deep within him, Kale felt a spark of excitement. Challenges would come, dangers would follow, but he was ready. He had passed the trials, bonded with the dragons, and found a purpose greater than anything he had ever known. The Dragon Kingdom was vast, and its secrets were many, but Kale was no longer afraid. He was a guardian. And the hatchling, the chosen heir, would grow under his protection, shaping a new future for both humans and dragons alike. Kale stood at the edge of the highest crystal spire, overlooking the Dragon Kingdom below. The sight took his breath away. Rivers of glowing energy stretched between towering trees, casting shimmering reflections on everything they touched. Dragons flew gracefully through the sky, their wings catching the light in brilliant flashes. Even from this height, Kale could sense the pulse of the kingdom, a living rhythm that connected every creature and every crystal. Beside him, the dragon child chirped softly, hopping on the edge of the spire with surprising balance. Its small wings fluttered, leaving trails of light in the air. Kale smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. From the first moment he had seen the hatchling, he had known that saving it was more than just a task. It was destiny. Now, standing here, he understood just how deeply connected his fate was with the Dragon Kingdom. The largest dragon approached, landing with a graceful thud that made the spire tremble slightly. Kale, it said in its deep, resonant voice echoing inside his mind, you have proven yourself. Not just in the trials but in your choices, your courage, and your heart. You are no longer merely a human who acts alone. You are a guardian, one of the few allowed to walk among us as an equal. Kale bowed his head slightly, still in awe. I will do my best, he said quietly. I will protect this kingdom and I will protect the child. Good, the dragon replied. The training ahead will be difficult. You must learn to move with us, to understand the flow of energy in this world, and to fight alongside us if needed. You are not alone, Kale. Many will guide you, but ultimately, you will make choices that define your path and the kingdom's future. Kale felt a thrill of excitement. For years he had relied on his own skill and ingenuity to survive. But now he realized he was part of something greater. Not just a human fighting for survival, but a protector of a kingdom, a mentor to a child destined to unite dragon clans, and a bridge between worlds. He crouched down next to the hatchling, watching it carefully. Its eyes were bright and curious, filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. Kale reached out a hand, letting the small creature nuzzle him. He could feel its energy, raw and powerful, and he knew that the child's life, and the kingdom itself, depended on his guidance. Are you ready? Kale whispered, more to himself than to the hatchling. Because we're going to face a lot together. The hatchling chirped as if understanding him and flapped its small wings once. Kale laughed softly. It was a small sound, but it carried hope and determination. The dragons around him seemed to acknowledge his words. One by one they approached, wings folding gracefully, eyes glowing with recognition. They were his allies, his mentors, and now his comrades. Kale realized that he would learn from them, fight with them, and perhaps even teach them some of the things that only humans could do: ingenuity, creativity, and courage that defied logic. Kale spent the next hours observing the kingdom, moving carefully through the crystalline forests and along the energy rivers. The dragons guided him, teaching him to feel the flow of the land and the magic that held it together. He discovered that humans, though small, could act in ways dragons could not anticipate. Clever traps, swift improvisation, and empathy for others. These were his strengths, and the dragons respected them. By evening, Kale returned to the spire with the hatchling resting safely in his arms. The sky above was painted in colors that seemed unreal, a mix of gold, pink, and violet. He looked out across the kingdom and felt a sense of belonging he had never known. He was a guardian, yes, but more than that, he was part of a family that spanned species and worlds. The largest dragon landed beside him once again, wings folding slowly. Kale, the world beyond this kingdom is changing. Threats will come that challenge both humans and dragons. But now we have you. A guardian who understands courage, compassion, and the bonds that connect all life. You are ready for what is to come. Kale nodded. His chest swelled with determination. I won't fail. I'll protect this child and I'll stand with you whatever comes. The hatchling chirped again, flapping its tiny wings as if agreeing. Kale smiled and gently set it down. Together they looked out over the kingdom, feeling the pulse of life, energy and hope flowing through the land. For the first time, Kale understood the full meaning of the journey he had undertaken. He had risked everything for a single dragon child, stolen blades that few could touch, faced death, and passed trials that tested his mind, body and heart. And now he was a guardian, part of a kingdom that respected him not just for what he could do, but for who he was. The wind picked up, carrying the cries of dragons flying high above. Kale felt it on his face and in his soul. The challenges ahead would be great, but so was the kingdom he had sworn to protect. He looked at the hatchling, then at the dragons circling him, and knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. Kale drew a deep breath, feeling the energy of the kingdom flowing through him. He was ready to fight, to lead, and to protect. The dragon kingdom had welcomed him, and he would honor that trust with everything he had. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the crystal spires, Kale stood tall, the hatchling by his side, a human among dragons, a guardian ready to face whatever destiny awaited.